Okay, welcome back to Mere Mortal Developer. We're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. We're in the middle of working on this small game that I made for my daughter just to kind of play around with over the holidays. This is super low stakes, just something for an audience of one, where we're going through and learning some kanji together. And this is an application that's just supporting some of the other stuff we've been doing over the holidays with Duolingo and in some workbooks and just in general life. So we're going to continue where we left off, which was we started working on data exports. And so just to kind of recap a little bit of what we had done before, the reason that we were even thinking about data exports in the first place is that this being just like a quick sort of vibe coded game that we've put together in Next.js, I wanted to not have to deal with things like putting something on, a server where we would need to have any kind of cloud storage or persistent data. And we're kind of at a point now where it might actually be useful to start thinking about how to get some data portability going. But before we make a huge change, I really just wanted to see if we could work on making some backup of the data that we already have in the app. And the reason why is this. In a lot of ways, this is extremely low stakes, but we're using it for real learning at our home right now. So you can see, this is a screenshot I took on her iPad where all of her data is stored and kind of held captive at the moment. So you can see on the chart here how we kind of started, I don't know, this might have been right around Christmas. And then slowly you can see her progress in terms of mastery according to the app. We're getting fairly quickly through a lot of the first grade kanji. And of course, she's been hearing Japanese all of her life. We are currently, for this year, living in Japan. And she's got Japanese classes she goes to. There's also this, again, the workbook and Duolingo that we're working on. So, this might probably seem like fast progress, but at the same time, not all of this is completely new information for her. It's really just there to reinforce. So what we don't want to do is start noodling around with making this application data more portable and then accidentally, nuking her progress in the process. So that's what we're trying to be a little bit careful with. And then, honestly, it's just something to play around with on a live stream. So that's what we're playing around with. And where we got yesterday back here on localhost was that we can now, on the main progress page, and again, this is just my localhost, so this is data that you can see I've been playing around with, but I'm not actually playing this game myself. But either way, we could go down, and what we added yesterday at the bottom of this list is just an export data button that'll dump JSON to your downloads folder, which is nice. And then where we ended up stopping was just kind of having a look at that that data dump. So you can see here the primary shape of it is you've got just some metadata about the data dump itself, and then the data itself, and then local storage stuff, which is mostly just used to focus on like what's happened to this day, just to track your progress. The app just simply sort of resets its progress, in terms of days at I think it's 2 a.m. every morning. So, but we wanted to keep that just in case. But the main thing that we're concerned about here is that progress data over time. And you can see here, we're pulling in this kind of data about each one of these individual cards for the kanji. So one thing I did in the meantime was just have Codex put together a quick and dirty script. So say for example, you were looking at this, you can look at this card right here and be like, okay, so this is an ID, card ID, mastery is this is the label that we put on in the game itself, and then some other things. But what kanji are we even talking about? So one of the things I wanted to do was just put together a quick script that'll look that up for us. So let's take, for example, this one here. It'll look it up by card ID. We can just run the script, and then it'll put out, okay, so this one is the kanji for sun, which is quite nice. And then we can actually look it up the other direction as well, which is handy. So let's see, I think we can do a dash dash kanji flag and then type in, let's say for example, Nichi, and then hit enter, and it'll do the other direction of lookup, which is saying, okay, this is that card ID. This is probably just useful during development. Obviously, like we're not going to do a lot with this, but I did want to kind of just have a little bit of insight into what this data means, so that when we start talking about, eventually getting to the upload process, that we can actually verify through a script that what we're seeing in the UI is actually what we intended to happen. One other thing I thought we'd play around with today a bit, and this is where we'll get into the Codex stuff a bit, is right now, in this sort of general progress page that we have, you can see that we've got progress over time, and then we have this your kanji list that has a bunch of filters on it. So we can say, for example, like here's the mastered ones, here's the ones that currently need practice, here's the ones that are currently in the rotation for ones that I'm learning now, and which is nice. We can just kind of click on this and it'll run the filter. Pretty simple stuff. What might also be nice and would give us some insight to while we're developing is to be able to click one of these cards and just have it expose a bit more data about each one of these kanji. So just even on the user level, one of the things I've noticed is that if we play this game, as my daughter and I have been doing daily, we'll go back and towards the end, look and see if there were any new mastered ones, and there aren't in this case, but generally speaking, once we get something that's newly mastered, we'll actually have a little dot here that will show us that in that day. And then we'll talk about, oh, this is one of your new mastered kanji, and like we can talk about, okay, what does that one mean? Just for fun at the end, to kind of like pat ourselves on the back. The thing is, there's not really anything we can do on this card itself. So I thought we'll probably just whip up something real quick here with ChatGPT Codex, and make it so that when we click this button, we actually get maybe, I don't know, I'm thinking probably it'll just be a simple modal dialogue that shows the data. So I'm gonna continue along. Let me think about that for a second. So yesterday, this is the chat that got us the import export. I think we'll continue along in this chat. Let's just see how it goes. So what I want to do is I'll again just kind of talk to it here and explain what we just talked about. So here we go. On the progress page for the user, I want them to be able to tap or click any given kanji in the your kanji list and have it open a modal dialog that shows different data about that kanji that is relevant to the user. That might be things like when we first saw this kanji, when we mastered that kanji, what our various status counts are for that kanji, and so on. Have a look at what we're currently storing in the schema, and let's think about what kind of data we would want to expose when we click on that card. As a separate task later on, we'll actually talk about the UI itself, but for now, let's just think about the data. All right, and we'll go with that and see what happens. One of the nice things about doing things this way, if you can kind of keep it from coding in the beginning, is just to kind of warm up the bot's thoughts on what you currently have in the application, which is quite nice. And obviously it helps me think about it as well as it's kind of digging through. So, I mean, we can even look here, right, in this data dump from yesterday and kind of start to see what we have. So, the current status is already listed on the card anyways without clicking anything. So you'll see, for example, so we verified this one is the kanji Nichi, which is right here, the sun. And so you can see where it says here, learning. So that translates into the UI as learning now. But you can also see that we have like success count, In this case, there's 3 successes, but we've only had 1 consecutive success and 1 incorrect. So that means we could probably deduce that we got it right twice, then, no, we got it right twice, got it wrong once, and then got it right again. And so that's our 1 consecutive success. So anyways, like that's all stuff that we might want to show on the card. Again, I wouldn't want to overload the user with like way too much information about, you know, all of their history on a particular kanji, but some of this stuff might be nice to see. And again, for the import export process, being able to verify this stuff simply in the UI before and after is going to be quite nice for us too. So that's why we're kind of thinking about this as sort of 2 birds with 1 stone. But we want to run anything we're showing through the filter of, does this even matter for the user? Okay, so let's have a look over here and see what Codex came up with. It's kind of giving us the lowdown in terms of what's in the schema and what's in the mutation log. We won't read all of that bit by bit, but its suggestion is the data it would expose would be identity. So yeah, quite nice, right? That's the first thing that I mentioned, was when we see, you know, in a given day that we might have mastered a new kanji, when we filter our list, would be nice to actually be able to see what that kanji means if we tap on it. So you can see, for example, in the main game, we can absolutely do that, right? So this one, hey, here's the one we've been talking about, it's sun. Cool. So being able to even maybe have just a similar layout to something like this would be quite nice, in addition to some of the other metadata that we know we have. Okay, so we'll go back. Cool. And that added that to our master list, which is awesome to see too. So we get the little green dot. That green dot will go away tomorrow because it only highlights the things that we've newly mastered in the first day, or in the current day. Okay, anyway, so the identity of the kanji is one thing that Codex is recommending. I think that's a no-brainer. The other is current state, which we're also already showing anyways, but we'll put it in the modal dialog. Counts will be things like success count, incorrect count, and consecutive successes. Again, we'll want to massage this a bit so as not to be confusing to a user. Again, this app is built for an audience of one 9-year-old. So again, we're not trying to overload with stats here. Mastery progress, so showing the thresholds, which is pretty cool, because like one thing that this may also be fun for later is if we end up tweaking the algorithm about what it means. Right now, mastery is pretty naive. As you just saw, like we have had a mixed bag of success and incorrect for this kanji, and so like we might want to play around with that a bit and tighten up the meaning of success and mastery just a bit. But that's a thing that will be a lot more obvious if we actually have the ability to look in the UI at our progress and how things are being calculated. Turn-based timing, so last scene turn, last success turn, and so on. Real-time timing, yep. And then optional history. Yeah, so I do want to lean V1. So it's nice that it kind of listed the kitchen sink here, but again, like we don't want to throw everything into the UI. That's not really the point of this. So we'll do identity, current status, counts, mastery progress, first scene date, and I would actually, I'm gonna take 2 of these items out. So let's do this. We'll get rid of last scene turn and next due turn, just because that's more of implementation detail stuff. Like there's nothing there for the user to really learn from. Whereas like, I thought it was interesting that even in our daily practice, like I don't see it in our list here, but let's see if we can find it. Have we seen that one in this sort of playful pass through? No, we haven't. But let's, oh, here it is. Okay, so this one, for example, was pretty challenging for my daughter. It just means like to live or to be born. umareru or ikiru. This one was pretty challenging to remember over time, and if you're not familiar with kanji, like one of the fun things has been like watching her learn this, which I haven't done in 20 years for myself. But remembering that like something like this one and something like this one look quite similar actually, and if you speak Japanese, you might think can think of some other ones that look really similar, but things that maybe you haven't thought about in quite a while. Like there's a kanji for writing, bun, and a kanji for woman, onna. To someone who's getting used to this stuff for the first time, those actually look strikingly similar, and that's been kind of fun to think about while I'm watching her learn. So anyways, one of the reason I bring this up is just that like umareru, this one here, took quite a while to actually get mastered in her real play of the game. And kind of like looking at that compared to say like some of these other ones, like this one means person, hito. This one was almost like an instant master. Like there was maybe no time where she ever got that wrong. So just seeing the difference in like time span between like learning something like this and something like this could be just like an interesting, oh, okay, cool moment. And at a meta level, if we were to really want to build this game out, that's probably something that we would want to do something with. So anyways, we'll throw that into the UI just for fun. So let's give Codex this to think about and see what it comes back with. Again, could probably be a bit more prescriptive about things like the UI. I don't know, sometimes it'll take the leap and immediately start trying to code things, which frequently I find is not what I want, but in this case, it's kind of wanting that, so I'm curious what it'll do. Yesterday we covered the fact that given that this is just this tiny little vibe-coded app that we're doing, in our dependencies, you'll notice like a lot of times, wait a second. Now I remember. Okay, yeah, so we are using shadcn. It just doesn't show up in the dependencies. Okay, so I'm going to verify that real quick. Yep, I always forget about that. So I am actually going to direct this coding agent to make sure they use shadcn for the modal dialog component, because that'll just save us a lot of headaches about modal dialog state and stuff like that that just kind of come for free with shadcn. Okay, so here's the exact mapping of the current storage. So we're aligned, identity, yes, current status, yes, counts. So success count, incorrect count, consecutive successes. I'm going to leave these in for now, but I have a feeling I'm going to want to scrape those or sort of start subtracting them later on from the UI. Mastery progress, yes. First seen date and mastered date. Okay. Yes, this looks good. Have a look at components.json to verify our use of shadcn, and then let's see if we can pull in something good for the modal dialog from the shadcn library. This is the fun part, is using something to dictate when you're programming is going to often be hit or miss. I'm using, what am I using? Mac Whisper, and I should verify this, but yesterday I was playing around with Mac Whisper, and I know that for some things I was asking it to use Olama locally, and I think it was one of the Mistral models. And that might be what it's trying to do right now. Anyways, I'll go find that out another time. But we want to say shadcn. See if we can pull something in good for the modal dialog from the shadcn library. All right, let's see what this thing comes up with. If you use Next.js at all, chances are you have at some point come across this library shadcn. Guess I'll just pull it in over here. But this is sort of the core foundation components that we could use. There'll be just like a whole list of things here. And then in addition to that, there's any number of like kind of higher level libraries that people build on top of this to like make it even nicer. We're just using the raw stuff. But yeah, you can see examples and that kind of thing. So it may need a little bit of help finding the right thing, but I want to give it a chance to see. So this is a modal dialog component, and I'm guessing, so by default, whatever they're showing here doesn't let you just click out of the box, but you have to like actually interact with one of the options. So that might be fine. Let's see. What's card versus hover card? Card might be closer to what we want. It's kind of funny because I feel like so many things become cards. Like even in our game, there's the concept of cards, but they're quite different than what we're talking about here. Yeah, see, it took me quite literally, and it's gonna pull in a thing from a library called React Dialog, which probably, I'm curious if it was able to run the install. My guess is it's gonna tell me to do so because I don't have full access on, but I don't think I've allow listed running commands like npm install, but I guess we're gonna find out. Okay, right, so this is hover card. So probably the closer thing that we might want for this user, like this component, is going to be card, but obviously not with like a login form. Like this would be more like it's showing you the kanji, and then you would see, all the different data we're trying to show off. So again, I'm gonna let this thing kind of run its course real quick, but probably we should have talked about whether or not it understood what we wanted when we asked for a modal dialog, and whether or not that was even the right thing to ask for. So for the moment, I think I'm gonna try to pull up this radix dialog and just get a taste of what might be coming along here. Yeah. I mean, this is fine too. I'm just not sure if we want to be pulling in something completely different just for this one job. When probably the card component would work just fine. So you can see here, for example, like this is exactly sort of the behavior I was expecting from the ShadCN one. Okay, we've got dialogue that we had a look at. Hover card was clearly not what we wanted. Hover card could work in, yeah, that would be too messy. Plus it wouldn't, hover cards are tricky on mobile as well. So probably not what we want to play around with here. Yeah, my guess is we'll probably end up asking it to go back and do the same work, but actually use a card from Shadcn instead. Just because again, I don't know if about pulling an entire library just to get a dialogue. Although, who knows? We might take the path of least resistance for the moment for today's stream, and then go back and clean it up on tomorrow. Just curious right now. Yeah, it's still midstream. Ooh, not happy. Oops. Yeah, because we didn't install it yet. So this is the thing, if you're not running something like Codex with full access, then there are just certain things. There are two possible scenarios here. One is that it's going to try to run npm install and then realize it needs to ask me for permission to do it. Otherwise, and what frequently happens when I'm using this is that it'll just end this entire sort of span of work with a breakdown, and then it'll have next steps for me, which is running simple commands like npm install. So we'll see if that's what ends up happening here. So kind of to follow along with its work so far, you can see it's at least listing Radix React dialog. One other thing that's worth checking, by the way, is whether or not it's trying to install something sane. So let's see. Radix UI React dialog. Especially when it just goes through and lists something like this. Like, so say for example, if you run like an npm install and then you're looking for the latest version of something, like you're gonna get the latest. What it did, if we go back and look at its work here, is it like literally wrote the string and it's asking for version 1.0.5, and who knows if that's actually like the latest, but we should find out. And looks like not for this. So let's see. And of course they don't list a version number because this is how they install it. Okay, I'm gonna see what it's asking me to do here next. See, okay, so this is one of the possible outcomes we talked about, was that it would ask me to run npm install. What I think I want to do here, because running npm install, whether or not I even want to pull in this library is a separate question, because I do want to try to wrap up pretty quickly here. So for now we'll pull it, but I'm going to do this instead. Well, not for themes. Is there a way to just pull in the primitive installation? Okay. Radix UI at latest. What was it installing up here? And then import the parts. Okay. Okay, are there, so in Shadcn, for example, when we're pulling in individual components, you'd actually run like Shadcn add commands to grab those. This looks like it's importing from a single library. So So let's click this. I expect it to fail, but okay, interesting. All right, so I'm not familiar with this library and I want to take it out, but for the purposes of this stream, we're gonna wrap up with this one, and then tomorrow I think we'll try to move back to actually getting this the agent to actually focus on using shadcn as opposed to going rogue and putting in radix. Radix I'm sure is fine. I've definitely used it for some things, but I just not really certain that what I want to do here is mix and match component frameworks just because, especially for something as simple as this. So probably what we would do if we were going to refine this as is first of all, whatever this fly-in animation is, we'd want to get rid of that just because it doesn't make sense for the screen we're on. But let's look at what we actually have in the UI. So this right now for our audience of 1 9-year-old, this is a bit boring. I mean, it's not even fun for me to read, and certainly is not going to be great for someone who's just like kind of trying to play a game to learn some kanji. So we definitely want to fix this up as well. It's a nice starting point though. So you can see here we've got the kanji itself, and yep, so they're all pulling up correctly. This one, for example, can be read as ken, and it can be read as miru. One thing this is not following suit with, which I think we would want to do, is in the actual game, again, vibe coded game for a single audience of 1, we're not using on and kun. We are using word and sound instead, just to keep it not confusing. I think we'd want to follow suit on this page. So we've got here sun, nichi, and hi, and then the status is mastered. This is redundant, so we could get rid of that. We've gotten it correct 5 times. We've gotten it incorrect once. We've had a streak of 3. So you can see here, that makes sense, right? Because we've 6 times, so we've seen it 6 times. We got it incorrect once. But the last 3 times we got it correct. Okay, so there's a way better way to show this, and we would definitely want to dial that in. We can make this a lot more fun than just like looking at baseball card stats. Okay, so mastery progress. This is something we want to play with because I think it's meaningless to anyone, probably but me at this point, just because I kind of threw the algorithm together to track mastery. This isn't how we want to show this. So we'd probably want to think through that. And then you can see that we first saw this the day after Christmas and then mastered it literally today. So this is a start, but I think we'll want to, I'm gonna grab a screenshot of this because the next time we come in, what I'm going to want to do is pull this component library back out of the app and try to go with shadcn as I had originally requested Codex to do. Then we'll go from there. We'll clean up the UI, and all of this is building up to being able to verify when we, when we let the user export this data, if we then turn around and import that data somewhere else, we want to make sure that they actually match. And before we started today, there was really no way to get stats on individual kanji other than looking at the data in a giant JSON object like this one here. So this is a nice start. It'll give our users something to like be excited about when they're done in a day's session with their kanji and just see like, oh, cool, this is how this is going, for example. But at the same time, for us on the development side, it just gives us something to check out and compare and contrast to be like, okay, does the import over here, when imported, does it match what I actually intended to export from my other game? So we'll stop here for today and kind of pick it back up and kind of continue on this little journey through this tiny vibe coded app for an audience of 1 9-year-old to learn some kanji over the holidays, which are rapidly ending soon. So I think we'll probably get about as far as the import export, and we may leave this app alone and kind of move on to some other things at some point in the near future. All right, thanks for following along with Mere Mortal Dev. We'll see you soon.